Welcome to Velocity City, where you get to know about all the exciting news and updates about our beloved sport, Formula 1. Today we will discuss a dreadful dilemma Aston Martin is facing. Lawrence Stroll's son could be why Aston Martin finishes third in the Constructors' Championship. Despite Alonso's brilliant solo performances, his teammate is dragging down Aston Martin to the point of no return. We will discuss in detail about everything, but before we get started, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon to get regular updates from Velocity City. Let's get started. Lawrence Stroll is best known as the owner of a Formula 1 team, but he is so much more. He developed the family firm after taking over ownership from his father, becoming a multi-billionaire fashion mogul with links to several high-end companies worldwide. When Vijay Mallya became entangled in a massive fraud case with the Indian government, his team, Force India, was put up for sale. Lawrence Stroll organised a group of buyers to save the team from bankruptcy. By the end of the 2018 season, his son Lance Stroll had proven himself as a capable Formula 1 driver. In his debut season with Williams, he had accomplished something that shouldn't be underestimated, finishing third, 3 points behind more seasoned teammate Felipe Massa. In 2018, Williams was experiencing a decline. Stroll deserved another season since he routinely outperformed Sergei Sirotkin, his partner. Your next question might be, did Lawrence just buy the team to guarantee a Formula 1 berth for his son? The exact answer to that question may never be known, but even for a man with Lawrence Stroll's fortune, buying a Formula 1 team just to appease his son would be extravagant and damaging to his reputation. Aston Martin was saved from extinction after another company led by Lawrence spent $235.6 million on it, and his team was given a new identity. Lawrence presently controls around 20% of the company. Following the acquisition, Stroll wrote a letter to shareholders praising the business for making the world's most iconic luxury cars designed and built by very talented people, and describing the choice as a significant long-term investment. Lawrence is not a man who wastes money, whether he invests in a Formula 1 team or a high-end automotive company. He is in it for the long haul. Whatever the reasons that he came and bought that team, and a lot of it was all about Lance, that's not it now. Jenson Button recently reaffirmed. He told me in Singapore last year, mark my words, within 2 years we're going to be winning races, and in 3 years we're going to be winning championships. Where else could you further your career than on your dad's team? Lance did indeed join Aston Martin in 2019, when it was still known as Racing Point. But remember that Lawrence is in Formula 1 to win, not just to compete or provide his child a guaranteed berth. Lance might be a problem. Let's spend a minute discussing Lance. He makes a poor first impression by participating in his father's team's races. According to a running joke around the track, he is the only driver in Formula 1 with a permanent contract. Yet he is in Formula 1 because he's skilled enough. Only a select handful of Formula 1 drivers can say they had 3 podium finishes in their careers, and performed brilliantly when driving for Williams. So do you think Lance Stroll is preventing Aston Martin from ever winning the Constructors' Championship? We believe they might fight for the title in 2025 if they keep up their success, fulfilling Lawrence Stroll's forecast. Lawrence no longer has the right driver to make it happen though. It's hard to assess Lance's most recent driving. In the last 2 seasons, a 4-time winner has sat across from him in the garage, but the 2-time champion, who is presently driving the other car and is in his best shape in almost a decade, sets a high bar for comparison. But does he still merit a seat in Aston Martin? This season has been quite upsetting for him. The team in Monaco justified his withdrawal from Q2 by claiming that he has suffered water damage. He remained far behind the leaders even though the top 10 were closely grouped throughout that session. His 5th place Q1 performance supports the argument, but is it simply another unlucky event this year that the best Formula 1 driver has managed to avoid? Nevertheless, he had a chance to gain some ground and do well during the race. The only other vehicle faster than the Aston Martin in Monaco was the Red Bull. He ought to have been able to pass the Williams, 2 AlphaTauris, and 2 McLarens in front of him, but like Sergio Perez, he drove with impatience and desperation, making mistakes while trying to break through the pack and ruining his pace. The parallels are obvious. Both drivers are keen to prove that they are on par with their teammates since they have teammates performing better than they are. And the senior Stroll believes that his son is a better driver, and he showed that in the Spanish GP. He thinks that Aston Martin will have the double podium in the Canadian GP. He said, "Those are exactly the plans. Hopefully get 2 cars on the podium. I'm extremely confident. I believe the car will be very strong around the Montreal circuit. It suits our car well, so I'm really looking forward to going home and really looking forward to a great race." Lawrence Stroll said Aston Martin understood their shortcomings at the Spanish GP. "I believe we are bringing solutions to those and some upgrades into Canada. I think he demonstrated in Barcelona, he's now starting. It took 6 or 7 races to feel better. I believe they will be equal by the end of the season," he added. Again, comparing Stroll to a 2-time world champion is difficult, but Stroll must fight at that level if Aston Martin wants to win trophies. He trailed Fernando in the first 4 races of the season. But now that he's had 2 bad races in a row, he's taking a lot of heat. Bernadette Collins, a former Aston Martin strategy director who worked with Stroll on the team, believes that he has yet to receive the respect he deserves in Formula 1. "I think he's been judged a bit harshly," Collins explained. "One of the problems has been the drivers he's been racing against have always been underrated as well." Bernie believes Lance is doing all right. He gets there early to go through the data, he keeps himself in condition, but nothing is in your control. That is simply the harsh reality of this sport. This puts Aston Martin and Lawrence Stroll in an awkward position. Is Lance the ideal candidate to work with Alonso, or should they look elsewhere? Lance has lost the confidence that comes with being a top team driver. Sergio Perez needed a few seasons to get acclimatized to driving a competitive vehicle at Red Bull, which he hadn't done much in his career until then. Perez may not be on Max's level right now, and he may never be, but he appears at ease in the vehicle and confident in his own abilities. Lance may find out after a few seasons of driving a competitive vehicle, but, like Sergio, it's impossible to picture him ever facing Alonso. Lance's issues reduced Aston Martin to a one-man Constructors' Championship team in the first 2 races going up to the Spanish GP. Aston Martin had more podium finishes than Mercedes, but despite Alonso's efforts, they are behind Mercedes by 18 points. Although he finished 6th ahead of Alonso in the Spanish Grand Prix, Aston Martin still has the largest point differential between its 2 drivers in the championship. Perez, driving the seemingly unstoppable Red Bull, is 18 points ahead of Alonso, while Lance is trailing the Mercedes and Ferraris. Mercedes has surpassed Aston Martin in the Constructors' rankings following the Spanish Grand Prix, although it's not due to Toto Wolff's team's efforts. They should send thank you cards to Lance Stroll. So what does Lance Stroll's future hold? As previously stated, Lance isn't a bad driver and doesn't need to fight for podiums with his teammate. Each team has a driver who outperforms the rest, but he cannot be outperformed by McLarens and Alpines. You can't dispute that, but his recent bad performances don't justify him leaving Aston Martin just yet. Lance needs to start improving, but 2 terrible races should not be used to forecast worse results in the future. Instead of striving to overcome Alonso, he must focus on his own race, else he will disgrace his father by stepping in for him. Now for the final question, what position will Aston Martin finish in the Constructors' Championship? We believe that if Lance had pulled the strings earlier, Aston Martin would have finished in a comfortable 2nd place. That's it, the dilemma that Aston Martin is facing, but they still have time, as short as it must be. Lance needs to step up his game, otherwise he would have to face the humiliation of being kicked off his father's team. What are your thoughts? Tell us in the comments section below.